Right friends, welcome back to 5th capsule. This is a news in focus. Union Cabinet approves amendments to the HIV and AIDS Bill of 2014. All of you are familiar that AIDS patients face a lot of discrimination in this country, in educational institutions, in case of employment and in case of renting property, and at each and every sphere of life. AIDS patients face a lot of discrimination. Basically, Union Cabinet cleared these amendments to HIV and AIDS Bill of 2014, and here this bill is basically to prevent discrimination against HIV positive persons and AIDS patients, and any discrimination against such persons will get a minimum of 3 months and a maximum of 2 years imprisonment, along with fine up to rupees 1 lakh, and at the same time it is also made mandatory for state and central government to provide antiretroviral therapy as far as possible. You may ask, what is meant by ART treatment? That is antiretroviral therapy. This is nothing but combination of drugs for curing AIDS patients. Combination of drugs are required, that is known as antiretroviral therapy, and this bill basically intends to prohibit discrimination in the form of denial, termination, discontinuation or unfair treatment with regard to employment, with regard to educational establishments, while accessing healthcare services, and at the same time while renting property, among others. And here certain aspects are included in the draft bill. One is organizations with 100 employees or more must have a compliance officer, that is one point. Second one is every state must have an ombudsman. Basically, ombudsman will look into the violations under the proposed act. Then insurance companies basically cannot discriminate against HIV positive people. And additional information I have given here, there are approximately 21 lakh people living with HIV in India, and during the past 10 years 1,31,000 people lost their lives. And in case of antiretroviral therapy, that is a combination of drugs therapy, in the world around 41% are getting ART, whereas in India it is just 26%. And there is an impression that the national HIV program has weakened in recent times due to budget slashes, and at the same time patients are facing drug shortages across the country. And out of 21 lakh people with HIV, only 9,65,000 people get free treatment. Right after this issue, let us look at other issues. Singapore Prime Minister in India. Please look into this slide. This is the city-state and island country in Southeast Asia. It is one of the countries of ASEAN group, and more than 70% people in this country are of Chinese origin. The currency is a Singapore dollar, and Indian origin people constitute roughly 10%. And the country got independence from United Kingdom in the year 1963. Human Development Index or HDI is very high at 0.901. Population is just 55 lakhs, maybe equal to the city of Pune or Ahmedabad, just 55 lakhs. And nominal GDP is around $300 billion. Just 55 lakh people produce $300 billion. And our population is more than 200 times that of Singapore, and our GDP is just 7 times that of Singapore, right? And if you look at the other aspects, or India-Singapore in recent times, trade between India and Singapore declined by around 11% in 2015-16, and the trade between India and Singapore during the last financial year was around $15 billion. Then second important point is Singapore accounts for the highest FDI into India. Highest FDI, that is a foreign direct investment during the year 2015-16 from Singapore, and it accounted for around $14 billion, and it is around 1/3 of the total FDI coming to India. And Double Taxation Avoidance Agreement DTAA exists with Singapore and was signed in 2006, and recently Government of India amended double taxation avoidance agreements with two countries. Please don't forget, one is Mauritius, the second one is Cyprus. Now, there is a talk that India may modify the double taxation avoidance agreement with Singapore also, because the present provisions of double taxation avoidance agreement are believed to facilitate round tripping so as to control black money. Double taxation avoidance agreement was modified with regard to Mauritius and Cyprus, and there is a talk that with Singapore also it will be modified. And another important aspect is Singapore prepared a master plan for Andhra Pradesh new capital Amaravati, and Singapore also gave proposal for development of around 7 square kilometers of core area of Amaravati, and at present the matter is with Hyderabad High Court. So, if you look at the visit of Singapore Prime Minister, India and Singapore decided to expedite the second review of Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement between India and Singapore. This Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement is effective since 2005, and this second review was struck up for the past 6 years. What India wants? India wants more access for its professionals and banks, but Singapore says that Indian banks lack international standards, and both the countries felt that it is a shared priority to maintain open sea lanes of communication. So, this much is the visit of Singapore Prime Minister, and both the countries signed 3 MOUs, one on intellectual property, other on skill development, and the third one on technical and vocational education and training. And Sri Lankan Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe visited India, and he stated that SAARC would become irrelevant without addressing cross-border terrorism. And Sri Lanka was the 5th country to issue a statement against holding 19th SAARC summit in Islamabad. And both the Prime Ministers discussed bilateral issues such as India's aid and technical support to Sri Lanka, and Home Minister Rajnath Singh appreciated that Sri Lanka is in general agreement with India on the need for United Nations Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism. Right friends, with this let us conclude the news in focus. Please join for Read Between the Lines. Have a nice day. Thank you.